Good morning. Well, welcome to Morning Moments. Thank you for being with us today. Whatever platform you're watching this on, or and actually whatever time you're watching this, I thank you for joining us today. Today I have another actress. She's an actress of theater and of film. She's been a delight getting to know Caitlin and talking to her before this interview started. I saw her in the movie The Confession, and this week, the week of this is being viewed, you're seeing a lot of people with the confession. And so we're having a whole special week with the confession. And another actress with the confession, she had just such a wonderful role that she played in it. I'm sure she'll talk a little bit about that. Catilin Borek, welcome to Morning Moments.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Thank you for having me.
Caitlin, could you tell us what do you do and why do you do it?
What do I do and why do I do it? I'm a storyteller. I studied musical theater and I can't introduce myself as a singer, as an actor, as a dancer, because there's just so much more to it. So formally, I'm trained in musical theater, but I do film, I do commercials. I've recently studied aerial performing, so with like a lyra hoop and an aerial hammock. And so I just love telling stories and sharing music and sharing dance across the board. I started when I was 4. I'm from Aurora, Illinois, and my hometown had a really fabulous park district and a really wonderful theater program. And that's kind of where I got the bug. And I went to Illinois Wesleyan, got my degree, and I worked regionally for a long time. And actually, one of the first jobs I had out of college was The Confession at age 23. And I played Shonda Pierce's part, Rose, which was hilarious. I'm not sure what had happened with the original actress that they had, but I was so happy to have the part. And I was also so happy that the producers all remembered me 10 years later to do the Confession movie musical, which was such a joy. And also kind of came at a time in my life that was perfect in that I've been looking to pivot a little bit more towards film and television. During COVID-19, the quarantine aspect, I was in New York, and my neighbor wanted to make films. And he used a grant from SAG, and he bought a GH5 camera. We made a couple short films, and we made our first feature film. I'd never produced a film in my life, and it was simply presented to me, and I'm so happy I did it. And then from there, I've done a few. I have another kind of family-friendly short film, Vroom Vroom, that's in post right now. It's very, very cute. And I also have a horror film that is in post-production. Oh, and why do I do what I do? What a hard question. And I'm sure everyone feels that way until they really come to a solid foundation of that. And it's been kind of the theme of my year to search for that. And I think I do what I do. I do it for people, to give people permission to feel, to go on these journeys and to hear stories that impact them and inspire them in a positive way. This is such a silly example, but I remember when I saw Legally Blonde for the first time, and I walked out of the theater and I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I am so sure about this. I have no desire to go into law. I was just jazzed and filled with like this positive energy to, find your calling and go after it 100%. And more specifically, doing it for people, I think I do it more so for a younger generation. I've worked in daycares. I've taught a lot of kids theaters and choreographed some kids shows. And right now I am teaching for a kids yoga company, Yogi Beans. And I taught at a charter school in the Bronx and a couple of private Jewish schools. And it's funny, we go through pretty much an adult yoga class, but with a little bit more fun and flair for kids, and it's a little bit more theatrical. And I don't think I've ever done anything in my life that was more rewarding than this. You get into the classroom and the kids all have kind of like a rowdy energy, and you try to gauge them the entire time to make sure you know where you're going with it. But then by the end, and they're in meditation, they're in Shavasana, and they're just so at peace and to listen to them talk to each other the way they do after class. They're just so much more aware and more mindful, and they care. And so after having done that for a while, when I have an agent, when she sends me projects, I can't help but think of them. I have two nieces and they're younger, and I turned down an audition because there were some words in it that I cannot say with any peace of mind. And I never really had that before in my life. Be like, yeah, no, it's all spaghetti on the wall, see what works, with the idea of progressing in my career. And now, as I get a little bit older, I can't help but be a little bit more conscious of what I want to be doing, stories I want to be telling. Even with the confession with this little hussy, at the end of it, she does have this moment of finding it in herself that you can't treat people the way that she was. And the golden rule has always been so important in my life: treat others the way you want to be treated. And yeah. Sorry, I got a little verklempt. It's yeah. I think it is important as a storyteller. I think it's important to register what stories you're telling and why that's important to you. Still trying to figure out why horror movies are important to me. But I love them.
Sometimes it's just escapism and entertainment, right?
Yeah, or the idea of I don't know that I necessarily like to be scared, but I love to feel brave. I love to feel like I can handle this.
When we look at that storytelling element, you could read a script or read a book, but when you see it and it comes to life, that's the difference. I've done some theater and some acting, not much, but some. But when it comes from that written word to stage or film, there's just an amazing thing that happens when it becomes visual to everybody.
Yeah, you're immersed in it. And it's different than, I don't know, going on TikTok and swiping through a bunch of different videos. When you're in a dark theater surrounded by people engaging in the same story, that's when you feel those feels. You cry collectively, and it's just so cathartic. And I think important to get out of your own head, get out of your own life for a second, and just, I don't know, witness something greater than yourself for a moment, for an hour, for 2 hours.
Yeah, and the movie that you did, we were talking about the confession. You had to play with John Snyder, right? So that's something
I
you
did.
had to.
Oh man, I was thinking of my whys, and joy was a big thing that came up to me. I love the joy of play when telling stories, and John was exactly that. We just had so much fun together. Like, you're given a script and it's very black and white, and I'd seen the show before, and so you have these preconceived notions, but then you're face to face with your scene partner, and it's like, okay, what do you want to do? And he was just a blast and a half. He came up with so many fun things that were not within the script itself. Yeah. And I remember seeing clips before I saw the whole movie, and I had no idea the reactions that he was given behind my back, and I was just dying. He's so funny.
He has a few years under his belt of acting, doesn't he?
Sure does. Yeah. Oh my goodness. He just clocked everything. Yeah. What a wickedly talented human.
I wasn't aware that you were casted earlier in another role. What was it like playing a play and doing different characters in the same play?
I was so thrilled to play a part that was a little bit more appropriate for me, but it was so... Shonda is hysterical. I loved everything she did. Oh my goodness. To witness it, it was kind of different in that, like, Rosie and I, we had only a couple scenes together. So I've done things where, like, I've done Les Mis 2 times in a row, where I went from playing Cosette to playing Fantine. And that was kind of difficult at the end, where, I don't know, one of the women enters and the other one's supposed to wait. And I felt it in me to go. And I was like, no. And so luckily I didn't run into that. And Shonda is absolutely hysterical. My mother kept giving me grief. She's like, is Shonda giving you lessons in comedy? And I was like, she's just lapping me. She's cracking me up. I
Yeah.
loved the clip where she goes, that was special.
Yeah,
Oh,
and so I heard some of the lines, but the way she presents it from a lot of her comedy routines, I heard some of that through there. Going, yeah, that's classic Chandra. There, how she said that.
yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be introduced to her comedy. I think she's a stitch and such a wonderful human.
Yeah,
Oh, I adore her.
yes. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting with you and talking about what's going on. And as you start your journey, and I say start, you've been doing this for a while, but you really are at the beginning of it, because I think there's a lot more things for you, and there's a lot of things that's for you to have. That's going to happen for you, not just on theater, not just in film, but a lot more. And it's exciting to sit back and watch somebody as they develop their career and they start doing more and more. As we close this interview, I'm going to ask my audience to do something I ask every time I do an interview. As we close this interview, I want you to take a few minutes and pray for Caitlin. I want you to pray that she'll be led and that God would lead her be at the right place at the right time. She talked about script selection and finding the movie that works for her, but that she'll be led to do the right thing that'll make the greatest impact, not just for her career, but for the story and for the message. And keep your eye on her. She's going to be around for quite a while. If you haven't seen the movie, it's being streamed now. Now that this is being filmed, it's being streamed now. And watch it. She plays such a wonderful role in this. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us for Morning Moments today.
Andy, it's such a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us for Morning Moments. If you would, pass this interview on. Keep coming back, and may God richly bless you.